Good evening, everyone. Today is a day like every other, riddled with the many complicated effects of COVID-19. Whether it be from the change in political power, the constant fluctuating economy, or the friends and families that perish to this ill disease. But not only do we share common interest, we also yearn for the rehabilitation of public communication. Because for the majority of us, our basic means of communication has been virtual for the past year and 3 months, and continues to be behind a screen as our nation becomes accustomed to the sudden switch from a quarantine nation to a fully operational country. And as we move through these confusing times, we can't help but ask the questions that multiple investigators have been asking for many years. Whether the use of technology affects our people skills. And given this change from public socialization about a year and a half ago to strictly virtual communication, it is bound to have its effects, right? Well, not really, because technology makes it easier to connect, and according to statistics, 83% of teenagers use social media because they feel more connected with friends, as stated in Jen's blog. And I can vividly recall both my mother and father constantly berating me with the ideology that the constant use of my phone will ultimately affect the way I socialize in public. And for all these years, I have always believed that it does. But to my surprise, a recent study published in the American Journal of Sociology states that screen time has little effect overall on kids' social skills. While this might shock many older generations, it comes to no surprise to the younger generations that basically grew up in the digital age. And although social media has little to no impact on how we socialize in public, a student paper known as the Horizon Online argues that social media makes it harder for people to identify the emotion being expressed by the people with whom they are talking, and that using social media excessively affects individuals' social skills when having a face-to-face conversation. And although this may be true within the rare instances of children who have been neglected from social interaction at a young age, it is not commonly seen in teenagers who frequent social gatherings and media alike. For example, about 54% of teens say that social media has helped improve their relationships, while only 2% say social media is hurting their relationships, as stated by Zachary Feliciano from C-HIT. This not only goes to prove that the stigma revolving around social media lacks credibility, but that social skills continue to develop, even behind the screen. This is especially true with the majority of college students, such as myself, during the pandemic, because we went from attending school every day to either a hybrid approach, which basically means you attend school 2 days out of the week and the rest is online, or a full-on virtual approach. And this has forced the majority of class assignments and class interactions to be dependent on webcams and mics. However, when attending classes through an online application known as Microsoft Teams, I have noticed that most students participate as if they were in class. While there are the few that show little to no effort on Teams, the majority continue to express an abundance of social relations and interactions. And another illustration that I would like to share briefly is my own personal experience with technology and socializing. For the most part, as a teenager, I tend to excessively use social media. It is one of the things I have to constantly use, whether it's to text back a friend or to scroll down my timeline. I could honestly say that online interactions are a big part of my life and fuel the majority of my relationships. Because if it weren't for FaceTime, Instagram, Facebook, or Snapchat, I would not have been able to keep the many friendships that I have today, especially the ones I left back in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And having grown up in Michigan, I sparked and grew many friendships with individuals I now call family. They were the ones who taught me how to love, share, and care for others. But sadly, I was forced to move to Houston, Texas due to a big job opportunity my father got. Thus, my departure from those of whom I loved. Thankfully, I was able to contain most of my friends from Michigan through online interactions, while also gaining new friends at North Shore Middle School. And even though I was a new kid in a school with around 1,380 students, I was still able to socialize. And due to this sudden change from a school with as little as 250 students to a school with almost 5 times as much students, I was mostly stuck on my phone. I was nervous and scared to be social. And for almost a year, I hid myself within that phone. But as time passed in my new school, I began to communicate frequently with individuals, and I could finally call them friends. And if we fast forward to high school, not only did I now have multiple friends, but I was one of the most popular individuals at North Shore Senior High. I was elected homecoming prince my junior year, and then eventually became homecoming king my senior year. And it's quite funny if you ask me, because I developed from a socially awkward individual to a person who could talk to anyone. And as we wrap things up, I'd like to tell you as a student myself that social interaction is possible, even to the mostly socially awkward person. Because there's very little evidence that screen exposure was problematic for the growth of social skills, as Douglas Downey, the lead author of the study and professor of sociology at The Ohio State University, stated. So don't fear or be nervous to put yourself out there as schools and public events begin to open up. Because while many people, including our parents, tell us that our phone and laptops affect our social skills, it is simply false. If anything, social media and online interactions drastically develop our social skills. Thank you.